Welcome to Draft Utopia. Chris Ransom and filling in for Orange Sheary tonight, Joseph Potter. We've got a great show lined up, and we're going to start with injuries and news in the NFL. And I think the three biggest headlines heading into this week have to be Bradley Chubb tore his ACL, out for the year. Vontaze Burfict got suspended for his vicious hit on Jack Doyle in the Colts game. Colts tight end Jack Doyle, and then Melvin Gordon returned from his holdout. Of these three storylines, which of the three do you think is the biggest and why?
Perfect. Easily perfect. Vontaze Burfict was a guy that a lot of people, myself included, have been calling on the NFL to get rid of for a long time. He has always shown a reckless disregard for not only the safety of his other players, but his own safety. He just doesn't care. And that mentality is not needed, it's not wanted, and it's destructive for the NFL. So I saw that hit. It's like, if you can go back a few years. The hit on Antonio Brown a few years back, he brought his forearm up, smacked Brown in the head. Brown's out with a concussion. This one clearly led with the head. I mean, there was no try to just push him down, just tackle him or anything. It was a clear spear to the helmet. And from what people were saying who were at the game, he was laughing and joking about it when he was running off the field. So, yeah, he needed to go. He's gone. And hopefully he's never given another opportunity.
And here's the thing. He's been given multiple opportunities in the past. They showed a hit list of all his helmet-to-helmet hits, his collisions, his fines, and the NFL would just be lenient with him with a fine, or they give him a 4-game slap on the wrist. This is the first full-time suspension he's ever had, and the Bengals cut him for a reason.
Yeah, 6 suspensions in his career. All small suspensions. 6. That's basically 6 chances. How many chances do you need? Okay. He has the most missed games due to suspensions over the last, 6 years or so of any player. At the end of the day, just get him out of there. Because that type of behavior is intolerable.
It is. It's bad for the league. It's bad for the league's image, what they're trying to promote with cleaner hits and safer play. It's not a good look for the NFL, and something had to be done.
Yeah, it's bad for the sport. I mean, we're not even talking the league at this point. It's bad for the sport. Where are the kids who are playing who say, what are they going to do? They're going to say, well, Vontaze Burfict does it. And it's bad for the sport. It's bad for everything involved, and he does not need to be anywhere around the sport of football.
Yeah, and you got to make an example out of a player that continues to abuse the rules, and the NFL has to do this because the college kids see this, the high school kids see this, and they're like, "Ooh, Vontaze Burfict did it," and they want to do it. They want to be like Burfict, and the league, the sport in general, not just the NFL, but football in general, cannot have that. It tarnishes the integrity of the game.
It does, and there is no room for something like that in not only the sport of football, but I think in any sport around the world.
Yeah, and it's basically the equivalent of aiming a kickball at someone's face with malicious intent, and you've got spikes on your shoes, and you're just doing it. That's basically what this is in terms of...
Well, to give a more realistic comparison, remember back when the color barrier was broken. Nobody remembers the first guy that broke the color barrier, but everybody remembers the second guy. That was Jackie Robinson. When Jackie Robinson would be covering a play at second base, this is when they still use metal cleats. He would have a foot on the base. Somebody would slide in cleats up just so they could jab him with it. And that's basically what Perfect is. He's a guy who's trying to intentionally harm these other guys and doesn't care about their future or anything else involved in it. And that's basically what you have, is one of those people who, like back in Jackie Robinson's day, who are trying to injure these guys, get them out of the league, and that's intolerable.
Yep. Bradley Chubb tore his ACL, and it's unfortunate news because he's one of the core players in Denver's defense. But ever since the first preseason game, I felt like Denver's coaching was questionable. I thought Fangio would be a good motivator and strategist, but it took Von Miller the fourth game of the season for him to get his first sack, and the coordinator for Denver was a former quarterbacks coach with no experience calling plays. So I think that the coaching, Denver, I thought Fangio would be a good coach, but if Von Miller's getting 10 sacks a year on a yearly basis and it takes him 4 games to get a sack under Fangio, then you have to ask yourself if Von Miller's the issue or if the coaching staff is the issue, because I don't want to believe it's the coaching staff. I want to believe that Fangio can turn this team around, but Bradley Chubb tore his ACL in the third quarter of that Jaguar game, and now Melvin Gordon's coming back from his holdout. That's going to help the Chargers. But any thoughts on this before we get to before we break down each division one by one after one quarter? I did this on Monday's podcast, so I'll let you break down the divisions briefly so we can get into the Week 5 games.
Well, here is the situation, I'm going to say, with the Denver defense. If it doesn't improve, the defensive coordinator is going to take the ball. It's not going to be the head coach. It's going to be the defensive coordinator. So there's my take on that one. And as far as Melvin Gordon's holdout, he had to come back, or else he would have been out for the year and wouldn't got paid anything this year. So, I mean, that's a non-issue. We knew it was going to happen.
Yep. And we'll start with each of the divisions one by one after one quarter, because now that Week 4 is in the books, we're officially on to the second quarter of the NFL season. We're going to start with the AFC North Division. The Bengals are 0-4. The Steelers are 1-3. The Ravens are 2-2, and the Browns are 2-2 with a tiebreaker over the Ravens, and they host the Ravens later in the year. And what was most impressive about this Browns victory, not only Nick Chubb's flashy running, they were able to go into Baltimore and beat the Ravens with an injured Denzel Ward, an injured Greedy Williams, and an injured Morgan Burnett. And they were still able to go into Baltimore, and the offense was able to do enough to take care of business and get the win. And it was a sloppy game. Both teams committed a lot of penalties early in the game. And I said it would be a high-scoring game, but it wasn't a high-scoring game early. It looked like it was going to be a low-scoring game due to the penalties, and then both teams picked up the tempo in that contest. But as we've been saying since July and August, this division's going to go through Cleveland, and a lot of people were giving up on Cleveland after Week 3 loss to the Rams, but we've been telling people that honestly this division looks like it's going to go through Cleveland this year.
Well, this division, I want people to look at it objectively. Right now, you have Andy Dalton and a bunch of first and second year quarterbacks. I believe that the most athletically gifted is in Baltimore. I believe that the best football player is in Cleveland. But here's the wild card for you that I want you to look at. I want you to look at him in Pittsburgh. Okay? But 6'4", 6'5", 240 pounds, out of Oklahoma State. Guy you were high on. Can't remember his name. 2 years removed.
Mason Rudolph.
Rudolph, yes. I was watching the first half of that Monday night game, and I must say they were protecting him, but at the same time, he looks like he has the mental side of the game down pretty well. He still has a lot of work to do physically with his technique and, learning to get certain touch on certain passes and so on and so forth. But he looks like he has the mental side of the game now. Looks like he's got strong leadership ability. And so maybe not in the second quarter of the season, but in the second half of the season, that's a guy we may want to look at and say, we kind of saw it coming. Do I think it's going to be enough to overtake the Browns or Ravens in the division? No. I think this is the first season that I have actually said in my life that I think Cleveland can run the table in the division. I think they can win every divisional game this season. The Baltimore easily will be the toughest challenge. And I'm looking at Cleveland and Baltimore both being potential playoff teams out of the division. Cincinnati, they've got Tyler Boyd. I like Tyler Boyd at receiver. He's really showing, that he can step up in the absence of A.J. Green. But at the end of the day, as long as they have Andy Dalton, it's not going to look good. And I saw in that first half 3 dropped interceptions.
One
Joe
of
Hayden
which was
had
by
2
Joe
of
Hayden,
them
I believe.
fall right out of
a ton
his hand.
Injuries right now. Cordy Glenn, Jonah Williams. Those are the 2 obvious names, along with A.J. Green. John Ross is out, and center Billy Price is also injured again. So the fact that Mixon was able to gain a few big plays without Billy Price or his offensive tackles, that says a lot about Joe Mixon. I mean, how he's matured and blossomed. You were high on Mixon, I remember, in that draft, but the fact that he's able to carry the Bengals and help them gain some yards with practically nothing on the offensive line shows he's worthy of a contract extension.
Joe Mixon is an immensely talented player, which brings me to another little caveat about the division. I want you to look at 3 guys. Chubb in Cleveland, Mixon in Cincinnati, Connor in Pittsburgh. This is huge if those 3 guys are able to get locked down in that division for 10 years or so. And they all stay healthy. What's the division known for? Tough defense, hard-nosed running. The Browns build on defense. The Ravens lax this year on defense. They lost a lot of free agents, but Harbaugh is going to work to rebuild that defense over the next couple years. Steelers, known for defense. Once again, lax on defense this year, but they're going to start building that thing back up at some point. So this is a situation where if these guys stay healthy and stay on their respective clubs, you could be looking at the resurgence of the running back in the AFC North. And it's like O.J. Simpson. He was, if anybody's paying attention to his Twitter, he's got a new resurgence in life with the Twitter account. He was pounding the table for Chubb. He was pounding the table for running the ball. So, no matter whether you like O.J. Simpson or not, you have to say, after his playing career was done, he was an incredibly talented analyst, incredibly talented announcer. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to running backs. Like him or not, agree with what he's done or not, agree with what he hasn't done or not. When somebody like that speaks, when he has that type of knowledge, you have to listen. And if he's pounding the table, we need to at least take that into consideration for our thoughts on these guys and go back and look again.
Yep. Let's move to the AFC South division. This division it feels like the one team, everybody in this division has a weakness. This is not a division where, unlike the AFC North division where you have stability, this is a division that lacks substance to a degree. The Texans, they traded Clowney, but they got Tunsil. The Colts have Brissett coming in last minute. The Jaguars are 2-2 with Gardner Minshew. They're 2-0 since Minshew took over for an injured Nick Foles. And you also have the Tennessee Titans at 2-2, who get left tackle Taylor Lewan back from a 4-game suspension for PEDs starting this week against Buffalo. So I think the Titans might actually win this division because Marcus Mariota has not thrown an interception. He's the only quarterback without a turnover in the NFL through 4 games this season, which is amazing considering that Mariota is usually prone to turnovers and prone to making bad decisions. It feels like he's doing this just for a new contract. While that may be true, as long as he gets the Titans a division title or he shows that growth, then he might get a new deal because at the end of the day, this division's that up for grabs, and it's like Mariota didn't show that assertiveness in the preseason, but he comes into Cleveland, beats the Browns, goes into Atlanta, beats the Falcons. If Mariota can continue to show that assertiveness, get A.J. Brown involved, get Corey Davis involved, get these guys involved, Delaney Walker, Derrick Henry rushes for 100 yards, and they're able to do this on a consistent basis without Luan. Now they get him back. They have one of the worst interior offensive lines, but they have 2 of the best offensive tackles in the league. And when these 2 guys, Luan and Conklin, who we both talked about a few years ago, were both healthy, Mariota's got a wall, and he can make things happen.
Well, I don't think the division's as wide open as you do. Here's the thing. The Jaguars were playing well when Nick Foles went down. If you guys remember, the pass that Foles went down on and broke his collarbone, he threw a touchdown pass. He was rolling. He just got hit wrong, came down on his shoulder, did a football play, but the Jaguars' offense was rolling. When Minshew came in, it took a while for the offense to adjust. But they've adjusted to it. The Minshew is a surprising quarterback. He's got talent, yet he also lost the Jaguars one of those games because when he holds the ball, he literally holds it with one hand and just waves it around like a magic wand. Okay? That's going to lead to the fumbles. That was criticism of him coming out of college. He fumbles. He fumbles because he holds the ball out there in one hand and invites people to knock it out of his hand. So I think the Jaguars are a very good offense, especially without injuries. I also think that Minshew will need time on the bench to correct the let's hold the ball out here in one hand and create turnovers every time somebody gets close to me situation. But I also believe that here in a couple of years, Minshew's showing enough that maybe even next year, he could potentially be the franchise guy. Because Nick Foles, remember, only signed a 3-year deal. If Foles gets him to the playoffs, maybe even a Super Bowl over the next couple of years, and Minshew's ready to go, they may not re-sign Foles. Minshew's ready to go, jumps right in there, rock and roll. And I think this year, he's showing enough that he's going to keep the Jags afloat. And if Foles comes back, I think it'll be the Jaguars' division to lose. The Titans, on the other hand, it's going to happen. He's going to implode. Loves the offensive tackles. But, at some point he's going to implode. He's going to make some turnovers. Mariota I'm talking about. And who's going to come in? It's going to be Ryan Tannehill. And I think that team is better set up for Tannehill's skill set than it is for Mariota's. Let's just be flat honest about it. So I think that the team signed Tannehill so that they would have, if Mariota took another step back, they could say, he's our backup, next man up. He just happened to be a better fit, but they're not going to say they tailored a lot of what they're doing on offense to Tannehill.
Yeah, and here's the thing. The Titans, while their offensive tackle's good, they have a huge weakness in the interior offensive line, and the Bills are 4 deep at defensive tackle. So if Mariota comes in, he throws like 4 or 5 interceptions against the Bills, which we can get to in a little bit, that could lead to the Titans deciding to give Tannehill a shot at some point. Maybe not in Week 6, but Week 8, Week 9, something. But anything you'd like to add before we get to the AFC East? I want to keep this division as brief as possible because the Jets and Dolphins are both winless. The Bills, they did an admirable job against New England. They actually had me thinking they could beat the Patriots, and it had not been for the Josh Allen injury or the block punt, Buffalo's probably 4-0. I mean, that's how hard they fought us, and they deserve props for that. You could honestly say that the Bills are talented enough to take on any AFC South team except the Titans or Jaguars, maybe. I don't know. If the Bills can beat the Titans...
I'm going to say this about the Bills. I think they are the surprise team right now in the NFL, and I'm going to give a heck of a lot of credit to that coaching staff. Those coaches have these guys coming in here prepared every single week. They are prepared, they're enthusiastic, they're ready to go. I mean, this coaching staff for the Bills right now, incredibly impressive, and they are putting these guys in a position to show off their abilities and limit their mistakes. I mean, I give that coaching staff, that's probably one of the better coaching staffs in the NFL right now.
Well, they took Tyrod Taylor to the playoffs a few years ago. Now they've got Josh Allen, they've got a stable offensive line. Jerry Hughes and Shaq Lawson are healthy. Shaq Lawson could never stay healthy coming out of Clemson, but he's finally healthy this year, and they've got depth everywhere. So they're really showcasing what they can do, and they're emerged as one of the dark horse teams. Their only weakness is at receiver. They need a true number 1 target, but the guys they have are adapting to the scheme, and the Bills are winning games as a result. So I got to give the Bills credit. We know what the Patriots are capable of, and we know how good they are, how they've went 3 games without giving a touchdown before the Bills game this year. So, and to be honest, Joey just doesn't want to talk about how awesome the Patriots are, and we're constrained on time, so we're just going to go to the AFC West division now. Let's talk about the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Broncos. The Raiders are 2-2, the Chargers are 2-2, the Broncos are 0-4, and the Chiefs are 4-0. It's looking like this division's going to go through Kansas City again. Now, if Bradley Chubb was healthy, I think Denver could have split a game with KC, but now that he's not, it's going to go through Kansas City again. The question is, can the Chargers or Raiders win enough games to get like a wild card spot and maybe play spoiler if they're healthy and the Chiefs aren't? Because right now, it looks like it's going through Kansas City because Mahomes is showing the adversity. Last year, Tom Brady could not beat the Lions without Isaiah Wynn at left tackle or without Edelman. Mahomes did it without Eric Fisher at left tackle, and he did it without Tyreek Hill at receiver. He showed that adversity and that maturity and that ability to rally his team around him. And while his stats aren't as good as last year, he's showing leadership traits and growth as not only a quarterback, but as a person. So I got to give Mahomes credit for that.
Well, here's the thing. I think this is a 2-team race. The Chargers are the NFL's favorite tease. Okay, they're like the Tinder date you get that walks in the door with you and then dances with 4 other guys that night. The Chargers will tease you. The Chargers will probably get to the playoffs. The Chargers will look like they're going to make a deep run. And the Chargers will disappoint you at the end of the night every single year. So, the Chargers, they will be there. They will have great showings. They'll disappoint you. And you will be left with tears running down your cheeks. On the other side, Mahomes, I was watching Sunday's game. I was on lunch. Myself, my buddy Brian, who's also a Cleveland / St. Louis fan. We're both from Ohio. We're sitting there watching this game, and we're like, we've got our heads to the side. Mahomes is throwing sidearm passes, running downfield. He looked at, in one pass, he looked at the official like, I dare you to throw a flag, whip the ball downfield without even looking, strike to the receiver downfield. Weird stuff. Another time, he was looking at the official with a glare that could have melted ice. I don't think I ever figured out why he was glaring at the official that time. Running the ball, nobody within 5 yards of him, outrunning the defense. Ball in his arm, not even looking at any of the defenders that are around him. And runs out of bounds just knowing where everything and everyone is. I mean, his field awareness is off the charts. It's something that I haven't seen ever since seeing the films of Terry Bradshaw. I mean, this is a rare skill that he has to be able to just know instinctively where everything and everyone is on the field and what's going on without even paying attention to it. I mean, it is something I have not seen since Bradshaw, and it is a magical thing for a quarterback. And as long as Mahomes is healthy, I don't know if anybody's going to even be able to touch KC in that division. And it's going to take a remarkable team to beat them in the playoffs.
Scared me because I think the Chiefs could beat us in the playoffs. Like, the Chiefs actually look like a team that, if they can do enough offensively, like they did last year, they might actually beat us this time around because Mahomes is hungry. He wants it. He wants to show people he's the man. And I loved his tape coming out of Texas Tech, and he's exceeded my expectations. So I think this division's going through KC. If Okung and Derwin James come back from injuries, the Chargers have a shot at a wild card, and they could be the team that ultimately gets that final wild card. But right now, it's looking like the Bills are going to be wild card one as they keep winning, and the rest of the AFC is wide open.
Yeah, when it comes to the AFC right now with the Chiefs, the only two teams I see that could possibly challenge them is if Cleveland continues to get on track and they get their coaching situation better figured out, and New England. Otherwise, I think it's going to be KC running the table at this point, because if one of those two teams can't get it together and are able to put a roadblock in there, I do not see anybody else that even has the potential to, and I am basing this off Cleveland's potential to get to that point.
Yeah.
So I don't see anybody else other than Cleveland, New England, who can even touch KC at this point.
That's
Mahomes is just that good.
Yeah, Mahomes is that good. I thought it was the offensive line, but with Mahomes rises to the occasion like this, it's just Mahomes being that good, and it's basically a three-team race between the Patriots, Chiefs, and Browns. I thought the Colts could have been a fourth contender, but with Luck retiring, that division's up for grabs. The Bills look like wild card one, a.k.a. the fourth best team in the AFC at the moment. And then the final wild card's up for grabs. I think the Chargers will end up getting it if they're healthy and they win late in the season, but it could end up going to the Ravens, it could end up going to the Steelers, it could end up going to a second AFC South team. That final wild card's up for grabs right now. We're not going to know who's in position to get it until we're done with the first.
I want you guys to all remember the second half of that game last week, the Chiefs did not have Eric Fisher. Fisher went down injured. And so you're basically looking at Patrick Mahomes doing what he did behind the 2017 Cleveland Browns offensive line. Okay. Now you tell me how impressive that is if you had doubts about Mahomes before. Because he had Cameron Irving as his left tackle. That is scary bad. And he was making magic with that.
Yeah, that just shows you how good Mahomes is. Like, I think I gave him he's the only QB in Madden with a 99 rating this year. But let's go to the NFC. North Division. We're going to talk about the Bears, Packers, and Lions. This looks like it's a 3-team race between those teams. I'm not saying the Vikings can't win. They have the talent offensively, but with Thielen calling out Kirk Cousins, with Diggs ghosting Kirk Cousins, it just feels like the Vikings, they're the odd man out right now. It just feels that way from the way the media is generating things. And the Bears, the Lions, the Packers, all are playing like teams that could win this division. I don't know if there's a team that's complete on paper in this division, but it's a slugfest early in the year, and it feels like it's still up for grabs, this division.
Yeah, and I agree with that sentiment. The Packers look like they're disappearing a little bit. Their head coach, Matt LaFleur, is having the same problems when it comes to managing the play calling as Freddie Kitchens is. They had the same problems with some of the play calls, in the red zone. And so that is a work in progress. The Lions are that person that you're talking with a lot of time, it's going great, and then they ghost you. Believe me, I was ghosted last night. I know all about ghosting, and the Lions are wonderful ghosters. They will go. So I think you cannot judge the Lions until somewhere between week 6 and week 9, because if they're still going well after around week 8, week 9, then you're looking at a team that can potentially make waves in the playoffs. So you have to watch them because they will ghost you. But if they can keep it up, they can be a dangerous playoff team, especially with Matt Stafford if he's playing well.
I just don't see the Bears making a run in the playoffs because I think their offensive tackles are talented, but they're overpaid. Green Bay's defense is too inconsistent. They surprised me early. The defense has actually been out playing the offense at this early point in the season, but is it going to hold up that way in January and December when the offense has to play up to par? Because the offense hasn't played up to par so far. And Devontae Adams is likely going to be out for the Week 5 game. It's like Randall Cobb signed with the Cowboys. Green Bay's going to head to Dallas. And, Devontae Adams is injured. So it's like they're really – the only team that I could see showing up in January is the Lions. But they always let you down each year. They're like someone who ghosts you or flakes on you. Yeah, you said it perfectly. So –
Well, here's the thing. I want you guys to remember. We're going to learn a lot about the Bears because Trubisky is out for a couple weeks, at least, with the shoulder issues. So, we're going to find out. Because we've been talking about the improvement Trubisky's made. He hasn't looked like he's made it this year. He hasn't looked like he's made that next step. We're going to find out. Is it the offense he's in and just good coaching that's made him look good? Because his backup's coming in, and if his backup looks good, guess what? We're looking at coaching, not the player. So this is going to be telling for the Bears, and if the Bears falter, it's going to show Trubisky's value. If they stay the course with the current system, we're going to be looking at what those coaches are doing, because it's going to look like these coaches are the ones who are making Trubisky look good and not the other way around.
All right. So let's break down the NFC South division. I still think this division's going through New Orleans, but I'm going to say this. Kyle Allen has gotten lucky. That defense has bailed him out. Atlanta, on the other hand, has just been disappointing. Atlanta's a team that should be 2-2 or 3-1, and their lack of execution against subpar opponents has just been atrocious. To the point where people in the NFL are talking about firing Dan Quinn. I don't know if Dan Quinn's going to get fired. He's a very respectable head coach, but the fact that media is talking about it is not a good sign considering the amount of talent Atlanta has on their roster when they're healthy. And their only big injuries are Keanu Neal and Chris Lindstrom. Those are really their only two injuries. They're a lot healthier than they were last year, and they're 1-3. So at that point, it's going to get redirected towards the coaching. But I think Tampa Bay has a window of opportunity to take control of this division. They play New Orleans on Sunday with Teddy Bridgewater, and if Winston can do what Fitzpatrick did to Breeze last year, Tampa Bay has a window of opportunity to take control of this division, because I don't know if they're going to hold on to the division or maintain control of the division, but they have an opportunity to take control. And if they can take control of this division with Arians and Winston, can we see the Buccaneers go on a run, have some fun, and maybe potentially win the NFC South? Because the window of opportunity is there, and Winston's actually thrived under Arians, the way Luck did when he first started out, the way Ben did.
I'm going to start this off by asking you a question. How many tight ends does Tampa Bay use in their base offense?
I think they use like 2 or 3, but they have Brayton and O.J. Howard as their two main guys.
That's what I was thinking. And that means they run a 12 technique offense, which fits very well into Jameis Winston and his more cerebral mentality, as to where they were using an 11 technique or sometimes a 10 technique when it comes to what they were doing last year, which doesn't fit his strengths. And I think that is incredibly important to realize. And for people who don't know, I'm going to break it down for you. The techniques when it comes to this are the first number is the amount of running backs, number of running backs you have in the backfield. If you're running a split back or a wing, you're going to look at a 20. So it's going to start at 20. If you're running a single back, you're going to look at a team. So and then the second number is the amount of tight ends. So you're looking at so when in the NFL, a play may have an example of wording for a play, maybe a 12 left strong or a 12 left. And that means that you're having a 12 technique, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, and the strong side's on the left, which means you may have the X and Z, which is the number 2 and the slot receiver on the one side, making it the strong side, or the running back may be slotted over a little bit based on the different formations or whatever, something like that, or you might have 2 tight ends on the same side, however the formation's done. But that works like it does in Cleveland, where it works to Baker Mayfield's strength. It also works to Jameis Winston's strength. So does it really surprise me that Arians would be able to say, okay, this is your strength. We're going to, and be smart enough to say, we're going to tailor this offense to you? No, it doesn't, because Arians is an incredibly intelligent guy. And a lot of people don't realize, well, Winston had maturity issues. He was a 4.0 student at Florida State. This guy's smart as Dickens, okay? So we're going to look at this situation and say, okay, you have 2 great receiving tight ends. Howard's a pretty good blocker as well. So now you have a situation. You can run that 12 technique. You can run different waggles, different crossing routes. You can have somebody in blocking. You can run the ball in different areas.
Yeah, and they've got two running backs as well as two receivers. Like, they have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. While Godwin's outperformed Mike Evans this year, they used Peyton Barber the first 3 games. 4th game of the season, they go to the Los Angeles Rams, USC Coliseum, where Ronald Jones plays college ball, and guess what? Arians decided he's going to feed Ronald Jones the football. To the point where he gave Ronald Jones more carries in the game than Barber. He subtly picked the right time to get Ronald Jones involved in the offense, like a doctor or a surgeon. Like, that's just how precise Arians can be when it comes to offensive terminology.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see. It's like the 11 technique with the Rams use, and from that prodigy, we'll get into that later, obviously.
Well, Arians has familiarity with the Rams because of his coaching experience with the Cardinals.
Yeah, but the thing is, that offense spreads out the field. So it's easier for guys like Goff to read the field. Goff is a physical player. He's not as much a mental player. But when you have the 2 tight ends on the 12 technique, this is for the mental players where he can pick and choose where he wants to go. We can do it quick. He can get downfield when need be, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, when you have these coaches like an Arians that know exactly what type of technique to get it to work the offense, I would not be surprised if the Bucs came away with that division at the end of the year. It's like I wouldn't put all my money on them. At the same time, it would not surprise me if Jameis Winston had a career year and they came out of there with, at the very least, a playoff berth.
Exactly. And we'll get to the NFC East division now. And this is looking like a fun division. The Cowboys, 3-1, obviously control their own destiny right now. They had a chance to go 4-0, but the Saints really showed that they're sound very defensively. And I honestly think if it's a healthy Breeze, the Saints defense, or a healthy Cowboys team in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs or the Patriots, that team's going to end up, the NFC's going to end up winning the Super Bowl this year. Philadelphia's got the talent to apply themselves if they're healthy, but they're 2-2. They did have some early stumbles out of the gate, but I still think they're in this division as a challenger to Dallas. But the dark horse has got to be the New York Giants under Daniel Jones. They've won their last 2 games. I don't think they're a serious contender, but they get Golden Tate back from a suspension, and Pat Shurmur, former Vikings offensive coordinator, student meets master this Sunday, and Mike Zimmer, and if we get time, we'll try to talk about some of these games in depth. But right now, I would say that the Giants are the wild card in this division. They're probably not going to push for the division. They may push for a wild card if Jones can win them enough games while Saquon's out. And the Redskins are the bottom feeder. The Washington Redskins are the bottom feeder in this scenario. They have all 3 of their QBs are not looking good, and it's mainly due to the Trent Williams holdout. But if Colt McCoy comes in and he struggles, Dan Snyder might just say, you know what, screw it. We're going to take in Tua. We're not going to get a tackle in the draft. Dan Snyder is that insane. He just might actually take the same stance that the Cardinals took when they went with Kyler Murray after getting Josh Rosen.
Well, I'm going to go back real quick to the Giants because something you said is like, you're talking about Pat Shurmur, like the former Vikings offensive coordinator. You do know that this is not Shurmur's first head coaching job in the NFL, right?
Wasn't he the Browns head coach when they had Johnny Manziel?
He was the Browns head coach for 1 season. So it's not like he was coming into the Giants with no experience. He failed miserably as the Browns head coach. He tried to do too much. He had an incredibly bad situation, obviously, with Manziel. I mean, you could not ask for a worse situation. But he was able to learn from that, so he's not coming in. He did not come into the Giants situation completely ignorant of what to do as a head coach. And then when you go to the Vikings, he had some pretty good guys, fellow coaches with head coaching experience, a lot of offensive coordinator experience between them, and a lot of defensive coordinator experience, a lot of experienced guys there he was able to learn from, and now he's taking that head coaching experience, that coordinator experience, the experience of all these guys around him. He goes to the Giants. And from being a Cleveland fan and then watching how he was with the Giants, it was like a completely different guy. Yeah, with the Browns, he was pretty docile, to be honest with you. Giants, he comes in there, he's ready to kick some rear end. He's ready to kick some butt. He's ready to get things turned around. He's ready to change the attitude. I like that, but I was still skeptical. Of course, I watched him through his Cleveland season. I have a right to be skeptical. This year, the way he handled things. And I love the way he's handling Daniel Jones. I was one of the few people, everybody, when he was drafted, you remember I was on the call with you. I think I was on the call with Oren. And I said, this isn't a terrible pick. All you guys, everybody else is railing against it. ESPN was railing against it.
I thought it was a good pick, too. I thought he should have been the guy Arizona took at 1 if they wanted a QB so badly. I had him as my QB 1, actually. Him and Haskins were my top 2 guys.
He was so good mechanically. That's the thing. He reminded me of a Manning. But he had better, in my opinion, he had better physical abilities than Eli. But he was mechanically sound like a Peyton. So I think he was somewhere in between a Peyton and an Eli. Obviously, he isn't as strong mentally as Peyton was. That's something that I hate to bring him up again, but you haven't really seen since Terry Bradshaw. Really says something because it takes 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks to equal what Terry Bradshaw was. But at the same time, Peyton Manning was that mental side, what was the Terry Bradshaw, where Mahomes was the physical side. Mahomes and Jones fell somewhere in the middle. Not there mentally, makes stupid errors at times, but has all the physical tools you need. Shermer is really good at working with that. And I have a feeling when Saquon Barkley gets back, if Barkley gets back at full strength, man, that Giants-Cowboys game later on in the year, that's going to be must-see TV because that is going to be, as good old JR is probably saying tonight on AEW Dynamite on TNT, he's probably saying, boy, that's going to be a slobber knocker tonight. Because that's exactly what the Cowboys and Giants are going to be. And with the Cowboys, Amari Cooper's awesome. You got to love what they're doing. They played subpar competition. That's what worries me. And they lost. Even though it was only by, I think, 2 points, they lost to the only real competition they've had. So that does worry me. But I think the Giants and Cowboys by the end of the year could end up being the marquee on that situation, on that division. Just based on what they're doing and how each team. It's like people are saying Dave Gettleman don't know what he's doing. People say Jerry Jones don't know what he's doing. Right now, both of them are looking pretty darn smart.
Yep. And that's the thing with the Giants. This could go either way. We've only seen a sample size of what they can do. Golden Tate's returning from his suspension, and Jones is showing he can be the man without Saquon Barkley. Wayne Gallman stepped up, did an admirable job. The final division we're going to preview, I'm not sure if we'll have time to do the picks if the show ends at 10, like break down the picks. We can save some of that other stuff for tomorrow. But the final division we're going to be breaking down is the NFC West division. The 49ers are 3-0. They're the only unbeaten team in the NFC. The Rams and Seahawks are 3-1. They play each other tomorrow. We may actually get to that game. May try to get that game done. And the Cardinals are 0-3-1. they're about done, but they get Patrick Peterson back from their suspension as they head to Cincinnati. And the funny thing is, the Bengals are actually favored over the Cardinals at home, even without A.J. Green and all their injuries. But it's like the Cardinals are getting Patrick Peterson back. The Bengals don't have A.J. Green, and yet the Bengals are favored. I'm trying to decipher the riddle here. I mean, besides the fact that Cincinnati has home field and a bunch of casual fans are making these point spreads and prop bets, I will help you. Why the Bengals are favored. I think the Cardinals are the better team.
I will help you. Bengals have Andy Dalton. Pick the Cardinals. That's the best help I can be.
Okay. All right.
They've got Andy Dalton. Pick the Cardinals. Because Peterson gets back, he's going to get 2 interceptions.
Yeah, this is his first big game back, and the media's underlooking that because it's Andy Dalton versus the rookie QB.
It's Andy Dalton versus an NFL team. That should tell you failure.
Feels like we're harvesting Andy Dalton, but it's all in good fun here on this podcast. All right. Anything you'd like to mention about the NFC West division before we try to preview a few of these games for Week 5 before 10 p.m.? Because we're...
Yeah, I've got one thing to say. I'm going to look at the 49ers. I think they're Jekyll and Hyde. I think that there are 2 sides to that team. And I think we're going to learn a lot about them this week when they play the Browns. The Browns are running on a lot of momentum. They've gotten better every week. Last week they put it all together. The 49ers have had a week off to prepare for this, to prepare for the Browns and for what they've done better. They've looked good. They've looked not so good. They've won each time. This is one where you've got an emerging team. You have a chance to cement your place as top of the division. You have a young quarterback who everybody had anointed as soon as you traded for him in Jimmy Garoppolo. It's time for you to show what you are. You beat this up-and-coming team, or you give them more momentum going out, and now people are questioning you and whether you should be looked as highly on as you are. So this is a very important for the 49ers. Win or lose, they have to look good.
I agree, and we'll get to some picks here. There's 10 games I wanted to break down, but we're not going to have time to break down all 10 games, so we're just going to break down whatever games we can within the allotted 8 minutes. The Rams play the Seahawks. I have the Rams winning this game 27-26. And the Rams just have more depth at offensive tackle, but if Clowney can make something happen, then this game could go either way because the Seahawks, if Penny comes back, they're gonna be 3 deep at running back. The Rams are gonna be 3 deep at running back. Peters and Talib dominated last year, but there's a drop off in their play at corner. It's not a big drop off, but it's a slight drop off. But if Wilson can pick those corners apart, then Seattle's got a shot. I think this is gonna be a pretty high scoring, pretty close game. But I'm gonna take the Rams 27-26. Here's why: the Rams are playing against the Dodgers on Thursday Night Football. So it's basically a pitcher's duel between Clayton Kershaw, the Dodgers pitcher, and Jared Goff. And Goff wants to show people that the Rams are bigger and hotter than the Dodgers. And even though more people are going to tune in to watch the Dodgers game in LA, more LA sports fans are going to watch the Dodgers because it's the playoffs. Baseball playoffs are starting. Tampa Bay's leading Oakland 5-1, but let's get back to the Rams game. Goff has a chip on his shoulder. The Rams just scored 40 on Tampa Bay and lost at home, and they're kind of pissed about that. Kind of is an understatement. They're upset about that. And Seattle is coming off a road win to Arizona, and both these teams are 3-1. And Seattle is easily capable of stealing this game from the Rams. These teams are a lot more evenly matched than people realize, but it's going to come down to execution and who wants it more. Because I think the Rams have more weapons, even though Seattle's got Shaquem Griffin and Trey Flowers and their pass defense is better than the Rams this season. I think the fact that the Rams came off that loss to Tampa Bay is going to motivate them, and they're going to win 27-26. But Seattle's favored.
Well, here's my thought on it. Jared Goff has not played well all year. The Rams defense has played really well all year. So I'm taking the stance right now as you put pressure on Goff, it doesn't matter. His receivers are going to get theirs. He has incredibly talented receivers. But you put pressure on Goff, they're going to have a hard time scoring. So that is my thought on it. So Seattle does have a good chance to win this. Because remember, the Rams barely beat the Browns. The Browns came within about 6 feet of, at the very least, taking that game to overtime on a game that they did not play particularly well. The Rams are vulnerable. And a veteran team with veteran coaches like Seattle, that's one that they could take advantage of. So do not sleep on the Seahawks in this game.
Yeah. It's Jaguars-Panthers. It's Gardner Minshew versus Kyle Allen. I'm choosing Gardner Minshew over Kyle Allen. It's not the fact that they're, and I just choosing Jacksonville because I think Minshew's the better QB. Carolina has no offensive line right now, and Cam Robinson's back. The Jaguars just are deeper, and I just think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to take care of business, even though this Seattle Rams game is a game that we're split on here at Draft Utopia. I've got 3 for the Rams, 3 for Seattle, if you count Joey's pick, which is live on the podcast, so that counts. Jaguars and Panthers, this is a game where I've got the Jaguars winning 23-18, and this is another game we're split on here. The Panthers are favored at home, but I think the Jaguars take care of business. They come into Carolina and win this game, and Minshew improves to 3-0.
Well, I'm going to take the Jaguars, but I want you to really pay attention to the larger underlying. Cam Newton is not going to be there. I can almost guarantee it, being somebody who was huge in nutrition to lose all the weight I did and to get in the shape I've gotten myself into. And I can almost guarantee you, I commend him for his diet, the vegan diet. I commend him for being a vegan. I commend him for all that good stuff. I'm sure at the end of the day, he's in great health. You've never seen a vegan with diabetes. Just doesn't happen. But as an athlete, if you don't get those vital proteins from the different meats, you're going to have injuries. Your body's going to break down, especially as a football player, and you're not going to be able to recover as fast. That's what we're seeing there. That's what's affecting the Panthers right now. Doesn't matter how good of an athlete you are, if you do not get those vital proteins, you are going to hurt. That's the problem. And that's why the Panthers right now, I cannot take the Panthers at this moment in any game until they show me that they can work without Cam Newton. I think they can, but they have not shown it yet. So until they show it, I cannot take them with them, and it's all on Cam Newton because he is not treating his body the way an NFL quarterback needs to treat his body.
Yep. That's Jaguars-Panthers. Next game is... We have time for one more game. I'm just checking here. Bills-Titans. I'm going to go with the Titans in this one. I just feel like they have everything together.
Well, I'm going to go with the Bills because I really like the Bills' defense against the Titans' offense. I like the Titans' offensive line. I like the Titans' receivers. I love A.J. Brown. I've watched him a couple games this year. I had him as my number 1 wide receiver. Hey, guess what? He is living up to that hype. He is absolutely amazing. And you know what? I can see that happening. I can see that working. I can see him having a big game. but the Bills' defense is going to take to Mariota, and that's going to be the end of it. They're not going to be able to score.
Yep. I love it. We disagree on these games. We'll try to get to one more. Ravens versus Steelers. This is going to be the last game due to time constraints. Oh, it's just 10 p.m. So I'm taking the Steelers. Tell me why the Ravens are going to win, and then we'll wrap this up.
Ravens are going to win simply because they have a more dynamic offense, and the Steelers are right now still trying to find their identity without Roethlisberger. They're getting closer. They're getting better, but they still got to find that identity, and I think the Ravens have an identity, and they're going to win because of that.
All right, there were 6 more games I wish I could discuss, but I'm going to have to wait until tomorrow's show on Talk Show to discuss that because we're out of time on Spreaker. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If it were up to me, I'm not saying anything else. It's not up to me. We're going to be professionals and end this on that note.